Hello. It is Thursday. How's everything going? Peace and blessings to you, to the chat, to everybody getting through this week, just barely with every little ounce of energy that they could muster up. Salutes to everybody. Welcome to another episode of Assembly of Excellence. Um, Glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Mr. Matthews, how are you today, sir?
Mr. Melvin, I am doing very, very well. Thank you so much. It's a cold one today. I gotta tell you, it's cold. It's minus 21 degrees Fahrenheit up here. So yeah, it's the kind of weather where you don't go out unless you absolutely have to. You just don't.
Right. It's weird you say that because I got up this morning, left out about 6 a.m. and it was freezing. And then by the time I left for work, it felt like spring outside. So I was bundled up, but you never kind of know with this weather what you're gonna get. So I don't want to play around with it and end up sick. But it just goes to show you that you can't really predict the weather. I don't care how many times the Doppler radar scans the sky. You can never know. One day it might be below 0 degrees, and then later on it might be 60 degrees. So I guess that's just how the ball plays out sometimes. But I'm
Yep.
glad you doing well considering how the weather is playing tug of war with us.
My spirits are high. I can't complain. No one listens. So I just keep on going.
Right on, right on. Um, this was something that we I spoke on it before, but I never got into it like I know I could or wanted to. Now I felt this would be a perfect time to dig into it a little bit more. You really these certain characteristics that we carry with us can be so poisonous. It's almost like it becomes another appendage or another extension of us. And the truth be told, it is not something that we should be utilizing or clinging to as some type of life jacket. So I wanted to kind of go into another realm with this ego and pride, what it means to you, and is there a large concern for it in 2024 versus all the way back to the early 80s, 90s, even going even further back to the biblical times where things were a little bit more, you get stoned to death because of your ego and because of jealousy and rage and speaking out of turn. So
Well, before I can give any kind of comment on this, I need to know when you say ego, what do you mean?
for me, ego is thinking that you know everything, thinking that you have no room for improvement. No one can tell you anything. Um, you kind of have a chip on your shoulder. You look down at people. There's not enough space for anyone else's opinions or thoughts. The opportunity for expansion stops or is limited by your self sense of I got everything figured out. I basically have the keys to all the locked doors. That's kind of my sense of what ego is.
Okay. So for me, that's an aspect of ego. That can be an aspect of ego, but I don't know if that can be considered the entirety of the ego. And there's this story that I heard a few years back, and there was an adaptation to it. The original actually is quite it's quite dark. It's quite it has an agenda, and the way that it was turned around, I'll give you the turnaround version. It was actually quite beautiful. So there was a man, a chieftain, who took his grandson to the side, sat him down, and said, "Within the hearts of all men there live two wolves. One of them is the black wolf. The other one is the white wolf. The black wolf is the wolf of anger, of hatred, of jealousy, of the desire to fight, of ambition, competition, blah blah blah. And the white wolf is the wolf of joy, of love, of curiosity, of generosity, things of that nature. And the with the way that it has been adapted, it's to understand that both of these wolves will always exist inside of you, always. And if you choose to only pay attention to the white wolf, the wolf that is going to be the wolf of generosity, of love, of compassion, of joy, eventually what's going to happen is, like all creatures that become hungry, it's going to get more and more desperate for attention. And eventually something is going to happen in your life that is going to cause you to go off balance. You're going to lose sight of what's important. And that black wolf is going to take hold. It is going to take over because it is going to get what it needs to survive. Because you can't cut out any part of you. It's impossible. And to see that there are two different sides of you that deserve either to be paid attention to or not doesn't make any sense. Because all you do is you divide yourself and you create within yourself a um a weakness because you are no longer whole, you are separated from yourself. So instead, even though the black wolf does have these qualities of jealousy, of anger, of hatred, of selfishness, and all those great qualities, it also has the ability to understand what is safe and what is not safe. It has the ability to protect. It has the ability to be vigilant. It has the ability to make sure that all is right or make things right. And the difference between the two of those states is the same wolf, but the difference between those two states is identifying how to feed it, how to pay attention to it, how to utilize it. And so if you misuse it, yes, you're going to get someone who is going to think that they are the best thing since sliced bread or a bag of chips. They're gonna be the kind of person who is going to believe that their opinion is the only one that matters. They're going to believe that they're first and everyone else comes after them, that they are at the top of the hierarchy. But at the same time, eventually that same person is going to have to be humbled because he will act his way into abandonment. He will act his way into rejection, where no one's going to want to deal with him. But if that same person who had access to those resources could understand, could use that energy within him to then decide, well, instead of me thinking that I'm the best, how can I best utilize what I have? How can I make it useful? And it's all just a matter of perspective. You can either see that this dark wolf within us is either a threat or it's a tool. I mean, even a gun has some use to it. I mean, by itself, it's useless. If you just keep it on a table or you keep it locked away, it does nothing. You can use it for the wrong reasons. We've seen plenty of that, but you can also use it for the right reasons, and we've also seen instances where that happens. So it's not necessarily the tool itself that needs to be scrutinized. It is the way in which we use it and the way in which we perceive it and how we approach it that becomes the most important question.
Kind of a yin and yang kind of thing.
Exactly. Hmm.
A,
Absolutely.
a healthy sense of confidence, but not to the point to where you're ramming it down someone's throat or putting yourself in positions to kind of talk yourself out of certain things. Something that I've always noticed and maybe you can attest to this. When a person, I get believing in yourself and having a certain posture and a certain walk, but when you're in a controlled environment and you have to exert a certain type of sense of respect, you'll find yourself having to talk a little bit louder or assert yourself in certain aspects to make sure that the people that are in your proximity understands that you're not going to be subservient to anyone, or you're not going to be looked at as if you're beneath or below someone. In that case, I can see maybe you're just having healthy boundaries and that you're not trying to get walked all over. But then on the flip side, I see a person who is kind of just bragging about every single thing that they have and everything that they accomplished, and it makes other people feel unheard and small. Do you think, how can I ask this? Do you think that having a healthy ego is possible without being overly abrasive? Like, can you have an ego and not be a complete asshole about it?
I'm of the mind that not only can you, but it's imperative to develop a healthy ego where you are not considered being self serving, where you are not looked at as an asshole or any other colorful names you want to use to describe someone who looks for themselves first and satisfies their needs even at the expense of others. It's important to understand how to develop a healthy ego because what that does is you said it before, it sets up the right boundaries. And in many of these talks we've had, there's been a recurring theme: boundaries and responsibilities. So making sure you have set up the right responsibilities for your life and how you're going to serve others and set up the right boundaries to ensure that you can maintain those responsibilities. And that is part of the boundaries is part of the job of the ego. Without a healthy ego, there's no way that you can have those healthy boundaries, which means you become completely reactive. You become someone who is mistrusting of others, who's always looking for danger around the other corner. And there's a big difference between the idea of being protected and being safe. Someone who is protected is out of harm in that moment, but there's no guarantee that they will continue to be in a state of protection moving forward. There's no guarantees. And so the feeling is very fleeting. It's fragile. The state and a person will know that's fragile. And so they are hyper reactive to any kind of threat, whether it be social, it be physical, emotional, mental, whatever. They're going to be on edge looking for the next threat because they know it's possible and it can happen at any time. When a person feels safe, not only do they feel like they are protected, but they feel like they are in a position where they can reliably believe that they will continue to have that feeling of protection moving forward for the foreseeable future, unless something that is beyond the ability of that that environment to handle where something dangerous will happen. But beyond that, and there are very few things that happen. I mean, it has to be the willful violence of another person, it has to be an act of nature or a force of God or whatever it might be. But there aren't many things that a person is going to believe that they are always in danger, especially when they feel safe. So in an environment where you feel safe, it makes no sense to have a hyper reactive ego because then you become the person that is unsafe in that environment. And in an environment that is built to make a person feel safe, if you are seen as unsafe, you are rejected. You are cast out. You are seen as a liability. You are dangerous. And what the ego, what a healthy ego does, it helps to understand where that aggression has to stop, where and what that aggression is used for. Something that I call conflict-free aggression, the ability to get things done, to meet a task without having to resort to conflict, and the ability to confront someone without it devolving into something dangerous. And if you can have that, if you can voice yourself while at the same time helping other believe that both you and them are still in a state of safety, then you have done your job. Your ego has done its job. It has identified this is as far as I need to push things because I need to make sure that a level of safety is kept because that is the only way that things are going to get done. It's self-preserving and it's preserving of the collective. And that's really what a what a healthy ego does is it preserves the self and it looks out for the collective.
I like that, and that's true because in order to accomplish anything, especially when it comes to yourself, you have to believe in yourself. You have to be confident that you can do the things that you're going after. You have to physically and mentally and emotionally be in a state of where no matter what anyone is saying around you, you have to know for yourself that you can do it, that you can be exactly, and then you actually have to walk in it. You have to really be in sync with every aspect of your being in order to sit here and have these type of conversations or to climb a 30-foot ladder to mess around with a transformer that blew out during a storm. You really have to have a lot of confidence in yourself. Going into a relationship as well, you got to know your partner, but you also got to know yourself well enough to be able to have this dynamic where there's ground rules, there's mutual respect, but then there's also this understanding that even regardless of your differences, or maybe one person has drifted off into a place of trying to renegotiate certain parameters within your confines, you can still stand up for yourself and speak on it, have ground rules or whatever, and take it or leave it kind of an attitude. But it still has to be a balance in everything. You go and you said it, going overboard and exceeding that level that you need to just keep things at a steady pace can lead you down a stairwell that might not be a pleasant fall for you. So I think that when I think about it, it's I've seen people be able to humble themselves and still have the confidence, and you can see it in their examples every single day. buddy of mine, he does real estate. I never thought that he would ever go into that field of work, but he exudes confidence. He's very vocal. He's very poignant. He has never, in my opinion, had any limitations on how far he could push himself. And I gotta say, he exceeded all of my expectations. I look at him as one of those examples that you can believe in your work, you can believe in your content, you can believe in doing and being whatever you want, and not be extra with it.
Mhm.
Like he's confident, but he's not like arrogant because his work speaks for itself. It's not like he's showboating and trying to rub anything in people's faces. And I think that's probably one of the discrepancies people get with people that they claim have egos versus someone who's just confident and they just live their life the way that they wanted to live it.
I think there's a couple of things you had said, which are really good things to dig into. One of them being, um, you said that he was confident without being arrogant. This is a quality of self awareness. And self awareness is probably the biggest key to ensure that you understand the limitations of your ego before going overboard, before it becomes too much, before it becomes imposing or worse. And by understanding yourself, by having that awareness of what you need to do in order to, yes, get what you want and strike a balance within society so that the others that see you welcome your efforts and they want you to continue succeeding. That takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes also emotional intelligence. And these are two things that make an ego thrive. There's a great book that really talks about this called The Anatomy of Peace. It's by the Arbinger Institute. And it's a story about these families that take their children to a camp. And it's a camp for troubled youth, and they spend I think it's a week there. But while the kids are there, the parents also are going to a workshop of their own. It's a 2-day workshop, and in that workshop, the parents are meant to understand how they have helped to create this dynamic of these troubled teens and how they how their behaviors, how they view others, how they view themselves have been a direct influence on their kids acting the way that they act. It's a beautiful story. I recommend anybody read it. It's called The Anatomy of Peace by the Arbinger Institute. And another thing you had talked about is the idea of arrogance. And quite frankly, the ego, when it is well understood, is very confident. It is well established. It works well. When it is acted on without understanding how to use it, almost like a 12-year-old who gets behind the wheel of a car, that is where things go awry. You don't understand the power that you wield. And so it becomes unwieldy. And that's when it begins hurting others. You are ignorant in the ways of how you actually operate, and you are arrogant, thinking that you know best, that you are able to wield this, or that you deserve this this responsibility, even though you've done nothing to demonstrate that you understand it or that you know how to control it. And I think this is where the negative ego comes along, where you see pride, which I consider to be the negative aspect of ego, where you see pride really come through. There's this wielding of power that you don't understand and don't care to understand. All you know is that you have this power and you're going to use it however you wish. And this is how tyrants are made. Tyrants are made by wielding power they don't fully understand and don't care to understand. And I think a lot of people that look at people who are confident, who have this air about them, who set firm boundaries, and say, "I will go no further, and neither will you." If they are calling somebody um, prideful or egotistical, it's usually because they're gaslighting this person. They're trying to get them to believe that, um, like, if you and I are in a conversation, and I want to impose on you, and you say no, and I say, well, you're egotistical. It's really it's my stuff, but I'm trying to make you take the blame for it. I'm gaslighting you because of my bad behavior. And that's another thing that we have to really be willing to understand. Just because someone calls you egotistical doesn't make you egotistical. It's like me saying that Melvin has spots. Well, it doesn't mean that he has spots. It's just my desire to create that label. But labels only mean something if the person it is directed to believes it.
You know, been in a number of scenarios where ad hominems are used to try to diffuse a scenario or a point of contact where you have to be held accountable for something that you may have said or done out of sense of having this, like you said, power. See, power does not necessarily mean that you're a ruler over a country. You could easily just be the object of someone's affection for many reasons. And because you know that the other person adores you more than you particularly like them, you know that you can use that as a leverage to get away from dealing with bad habits that you have that are just uncouth. And so you abuse this responsibility, and you say and do things irrationally, and you're just kind of all over the place. You don't have no filter on your mouth because you're just so used to this person feigning over you, or you're just so used to society handing you all of this sense of admiration until someone starts to kind of fight back, and they start calling you out on your stuff. Now you are in a place where you have all of this power in your hands. You can influence someone to do things for you, things that we could never imagine someone doing for another human being. The lengths that people will go for someone that has confidence and walks with a certain sense of importance. People will go to the ends of the earth for certain people. If you just believe and you just walk it and you just talk it and you just have that attitude about you, there are people who will kill for you. But now you're kind of just playing with fire, and you're tipping the scale uneven, and you don't know what to. It's like you start a fire. You start a fire and it starts to just consume stuff. Now, if you had a fireplace and you put wood in there, and you know you have to cycle it. If you don't, it'll go out. But if you exceed what you're putting in there, you might cause something to get out of whack. Well, you start a fire that you can't put out and it starts to spread, it consumes and devours everything. And then what you're doing is you're just creating more mess for someone else to pick up and clean because you're not going to do it. A lot of a lot of folks, and I mean, I guess I'm speaking on the positives and the negative sides of just like you did, which I agree completely about having a balance. But when you're unbalanced and you really just don't know what you're doing with what you got, you start destroying people's credibility. You start going in different directions. You don't know how to juggle multiple things at once, and you start sticking your foot in your mouth constantly. So to touch on that whole pride thing, pride costs people a lot of relationships, a lot of careers, a lot of forgiveness. Pride will have family never wanting to speak to each other again. I did a I asked a question on one of my social media accounts. I just basically was like, "Do you have anyone in your family? Do you know anyone that you should have forgiveness for, have a conversation with?" And a lot of people are there was mixed reactions. Some people said they tried, and other people were just like, you know what, whatever. I'm not about to waste my energy on it. And the reason I asked was because, and I'll give you the floor, but the reason I asked was because you think that the things that we fight over and we fall out over is super important until these people are no longer here and you realize that it wasn't as big as you thought it was. So pride will cost you help because you got to do everything yourself. You can't call nobody for help. You can't ask nobody to do nothing for you. Proud to have you getting into scuffles with folks over the most minuscule things. Proud to keep you from having conversations with people over small misunderstandings. It'll turn you into a monster. So I really think that a lot of us, including myself, should really look at ourselves because those traits and those characteristics are not healthy at all. There's nothing that I've seen or witnessed from pride ever been a tool for good.
I agree. I think that pride is a consuming agent that has the ability to cause untold and unfettered destruction. And the toll that it takes on a person and on a culture is it is a cancer. And a cancer that is not cut out eventually devours the entire body. And it has to be taken seriously because it in the movie The Devil's Advocate with um, Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves.
Robert De
One
Niro,
thing,
no, not yeah, Al Pacino, yeah.
yeah, one thing that the devil said was, of all the sins, pride is my favorite, and it's the favorite because it is the most subtle and it is the connecting influence to all the other sins: greed, gluttony, sloth, wrath, lust, um, and wrath. Did I say wrath? Yeah, I think I already said that one. There's one more. But pride. is the one that all others connect to. And when you are prideful, you are greedy, you are lustful, you are um, wasteful of energy, so sloth. You are easy to anger. You are a very self-centered, selfish, and destructive person, and primarily self-destructive. And the best thing that can happen when people encounter a person like this, it doesn't matter where they encounter them, their family, friends, co-worker, boss, uh, God forbid a relationship. But the best thing that can happen is you ignore that behavior, and sometimes it requires you to ignore the person for a while until they begin to change. And this is one thing that I caution everybody when it comes to forgiveness. When you are looking to create forgiveness, you are not forgiving a person that wronged you, because in a way what you're doing is you're forgiving the behavior, and a behavior like pride that leads to immense emotional, societal, and mental destruction is unforgivable. But the idea of forgiveness is for you to move past the negative emotions that you have for that person and what they did to you. It's the ability to rise above it and move on. And when you can do that, when you can leave a person in in your wake, and the dust behind as you kick the dust from your shoes and continue moving on, when you can leave that experience, that emotional destruction behind, you have forgiven yourself. And now if that person wants to have a interaction with you, they must change. And this is what contrition really does. It is the desire to change. And when you have a desire to change, it means you no longer want that behavior that you did before, because you realize it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve anyone. And so this is the beauty of forgiveness, is you can say, I don't have any ill will towards you. I cannot be around you because your influence is destructive towards me. And I cannot interact with others in a way that best serves me or them with you as an influence in my life. And that's really what the best course of action is with someone who is displaying the kind of prideful behavior.
Said, well said. I want to retort to that. Before I do, I want to give my flowers out real quick. I tried to make sure that I show love to everybody who showed me love. If y'all didn't catch it at the beginning, um, on replay, you'll catch it. I played one of the brothers that's going to be with us on Saturday, and he was here last weekend as well. Jess, I'll make sure I put his link in the pinned section under this when it's all done. But uh, this right here is just my token of gratitude to you all. And once this plays out, we'll go back into the conversation. You said some very, very important things. I think we need to uh, elaborate. So give me 1 second.
Sure.
Thank you, all of you for your likes, for your comments, for your continued support on my pages on this channel. Make sure you go check out that brother song that I played at the beginning of this stream, man. Trust me, you're going to want to listen to it. Um, but back to what you said. Forgiveness, it's tricky, right? Because we want everybody to kind of forgive us, you know, because we're not perfect. We've done things to people. We'd hope that a person could find it in their heart to let go of some things that we may have offended them by. But then when it turns around and we're put in a position, you feel that fire and that heat so bad that it's hard. It's hard to let go of what happened, of how it made you feel because you were in it so long. But you have to go into a space and kind of think about certain scenarios and things that happen within that time frame that you were dealing with people. See, everything happened for a reason. A lot of folks that we dealt with aren't around us anymore because things had to happen the way they had to happen. Sometimes it's to bring you back to life so you can find yourself and get back on course. And other times it's to put you in your place for how you were moving because you weren't the best person. And sometimes reality got to bite you back. It could be a number of things. And so looking at it when it's time to actually say, you know what, yeah, this hurt me. I think you're whatever you feel towards a person, but if you don't let go of it, God is not going to let go of it. And it's
It's
not that he's going to be think he's not going it's not that he's going to be thinking about what happened between you and the person. He's probably going to be looking at what you did to people that he forgave you for, but because you can't forgive other people, what makes you any special? So it's almost it's 20 times worse if he don't forgive you than if you don't forgive the person. Big deal. You don't forgive the person, but heaven forbid God don't forgive you,
I'm hoping that there are
and it
people
can't.
that go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you weren't finished. Please continue.
No, you go ahead, you fine.
I'm hoping that there are people that watch this a few times because there's a lot of really good gems that are being dropped here. A lot of really good things that are thought provoking that you and I are talking about. And one thing that I want to highlight is where I said that you bear no ill will towards the person. And in that way, you are separating the person from the behavior. You cannot be around the behavior that is being exhibited, but you bear no ill will towards the person. You don't have to have them in your life um, in order to have that happen. And sometimes having them in their life when they are exhibiting certain behaviors is damaging and some downright dangerous, and not advised. But again, that's the behavior. And by understanding that the behavior and the person are separate things, people exhibit behaviors. People are not behaviors. And because when you understand that, you realize that a person can exhibit a behavior or exhibit a different behavior. When they are exhibiting a negative behavior, you have no obligation to be around that person as they are exhibiting that behavior. However, that does not mean that you have any ill will towards that person. You just understand that that behavior that they're exhibiting is not right for you, and that's okay. Now, if they change their behavior and they want to reconnect with you, and you see that change, by all means, it's probably prudent to reconnect with them because, again, you are connected with the person and you see the person different from the behavior. So you can see the person as being someone that you want to connect with. And as long as they are exhibiting behaviors that are conducive to that relationship, you'll keep on interacting with them. And once negative behaviors return, again, you're under no obligation to be around that person. And as long as you see the difference between the behavior and the person, you're good to go.
That's I wonder. I might do a poll asking this question. I really want to know what are the odds that a person who have possibly wronged you in any type of way, it doesn't. I'm not speaking on no level of intensity. What is the likelihood of a person creating that change of behavior to keep you in their life? How likely is that to happen? Because I don't want to speak on generalities. I don't know. I can only go off of my own experiences, and
Mhm.
I haven't seen a lot of people live that out,
Mhm.
where we'll have a dispute about something, and they did the things that they needed to do to nurture the friendship or whatever. They always said they would do it, but they never actually did it. It might last for a day or two, maybe a week, and then it's right back to the same thing. Only to say that you can care about people and you can forgive and go on with your life knowing that these type of people are just not there for the long haul. It's a season for all of it. Then you're just going in a different direction than they are. That's fine. It's okay not to hold on to it. You can let it go. You don't need to carry that. All that anger and burden and feeling guilty and feeling like you did something wrong. You don't have to hold on to that. Once they leave, let it go with them, or you just leave it where leave all of it where you and the other person separated. That's where it should stay. Because look at it this way: the problem is always going to be the problem, but they're no longer here. You think they're going to carry it with them? Probably not. So who's going to leave with the baggage? You better off just leaving it where it is. But I am curious about that whole change behavior thing. If a person does that, they really must. You really have to be in a certain place in your life to where you can really respect or care for the person enough to actually want to make these adjustments. If not, that means that they really don't care as much as you would like to believe. Anyone who repeats the same thing over and over and say they're gonna do this and do that, and they still just chalk it up, take the L and go on with your life.
So when I was younger, I had a I had a tendency to when I was I've had a very rough life, emotionally, physically, mentally. People that have done a lot to take advantage or to want to harm me, and because of that, I have there was a period of my life where I would not trust others, and I got to a point where if you wronged me, you were dead to me. I wrote you off completely. I went hardcore where I would just completely ignore you. You could have been in the same room and I would not even acknowledge your existence. That's how petty I would get. And when I decided that I was going to stop seeing people as behaviors, when I was going to start seeing people as people, and that people were individuals who displayed behaviors but weren't their behaviors, I began to exhibit something really remarkable, and it's something that's brought up in religion a lot. It's called grace. It's the ability to see past a person's behavior and see that there is someone that there's a reason why they're acting that way, but they're not the entirety of how they are acting or reacting. In behavior analysis, we talked about that there are four ways of being able to see a person. You can see them as broken, different, facts, or reasons. And if you saw them as broken, you saw them as someone that was completely and utterly morally depraved, or so um, emotionally screwed up, or screwed up in the head, or damaged in some way that there was no hope for them. And you would they would get treated by how people would see them. Excuse me. Now, if you saw someone as different, then you saw them as, oh, they were raised differently than I was. They have a different culture. They just don't know. And again, you will treat them differently because you see them as different. Now, the moment you get into facts, something changes. The emotional charge kind of goes away, and you just see them as, well, they're just doing that because that's what they're supposed to do in this moment. They're doing that because that's what they're doing. It's a fact, and like I said before, you can't argue with facts. But the real gem is when you can see someone who is, let's say that you're in a department store and you're in line to check out, and this person that's at the till, they start going off on the cashier, up one side and down the other, raising a complete fit. And instead of seeing them as someone who is completely damaged, as someone who is different than you, or someone who's acting the way that they were supposed to be acting because that's how they're acting, you said to yourself, I wonder what it was that caused them to need to act this way in this moment. I wonder what happened in their life or in their past moments that made them feel like they had to exhibit themselves this way. You begin to see the person as different from their behaviors. You begin to see them as someone that is worth investigating because there's probably something very similar to them between them and you. They probably have a lot of things going on that you do. They just deal with them differently because they that's how they know how to do it at the time. But that doesn't mean that that's all they're going to do. So the more empathy you have for someone, the more you can realize that they're not screwed up. They're not different. And they aren't just facts. They're human beings who are doing things because there was an exchange in their life that caused them to act that way. Positive or negative, doesn't matter. Reasons are reasons. Everyone does something for a reason, even if that reason is false or imagined. So when you seek to understand the reasons, you get the behaviors out of the way and you're looking at the person themselves and you're looking to connect with the person, that takes grace. It takes a lot of letting go of your own pride, really, and being willing to see someone for exactly who they are rather than who you perceive them to be or who you want to label them as.
That's another part of pride that I'm glad you just touched on, the inability to see beyond yourself. Everybody is, fairly new to the concept of it's not just about you. I'm around people 24 hours a day, and sometimes I get inside my head, and all I'm thinking about is my shift and the people that I gotta deal with. I gotta come home and deal with this and deal with that, but I'm so involved with everything that I'm feeling and all of my stuff that I kind of put up this invisible wall where I can't feel for nobody else. I can't look at why this person is acting this way and why that person is acting this way. Maybe I should be a little more empathetic. Maybe I need to reevaluate how I'm conducting and carrying myself around these people. My choice of words and my conversation or whatever it is, because we are in a spiritual warfare 24 hours a day, whether or not you want to believe it or not. And everybody is under some type of attack at some level. Yours might not be as great as the next person, but these behaviors and these patterns are not mere mortal. Like, a lot of these things are adopted through spirituality. And if you can get out of yourself long enough to really feel for human that, put yourself in other people's shoes just for a second. I know you stressed, I know you angry, I know you're bitter, I know maybe you're feeling yourself. You probably got on your favorite outfit today. Can nobody tell you nothing? You don't want nobody staring at you too long. I know we all have those little indulgences. But if you can kind of take a walk up and down the street, or maybe look at one of your coworkers and ask yourself, are they okay? What's wrong with them? Is there anything wrong with them? How's life treating them? Why do they act this way? Maybe I need to not be so quick to absorb this negative energy that is coming off of people, and maybe kind of shift it and reshape it into something that's going to be more palatable. Because if I know your history, or I just know that there's always a root to it, if I can get out of my pride, then it allows me to explore deeper into the subconscious of other people, and it detaches my emotions and my physical self from reacting and responding to others in a way that is not going to help you or help me at the same time. Pride does not help anyone, and it comes in different forms, and it happens. You don't even know it's happening until after it's already done its damage. People judge me and look at me and assume things about me all the time. But that's because no one is having the conversation with me. No one's walking up to me and saying, "Hey, how's your family? How's this? What's?" No one's doing that. They're just looking at they look at you from head to toe. They look at what you got on. They look at whether or not you have eye contact. They examine your demeanor, the way that you converse with people. They want to know if you're social. They look at the surface level of it. They have that wall up. They can go past this. And so what you've ultimately done is you've created an image in your head that is completely false. And I think we do that a lot. I think that's probably one of the biggest examples of pride that I've
Yeah,
noticed.
I think this is one of the biggest reasons why relationships fail so much too. You had said before that it's important for you to understand your partner. I'm here to tell you that you will never understand your partner. You won't truly understand your partner, but you can be willing to listen to and have a desire to understand better where they're coming from and work with them, be cooperative with them, and seek to create some kind of dynamic where both of you are what's known as pendulating, where you are moving back and forth and you are moving between the idea that there are some things that are going to be more in your wheelhouse or something that you're going to be more passionate about and some things that your partner is going to be more passionate about, and both things are good. The trick is the willingness to work within that dance, within that pendulation, within that back and forth, and be flexible enough to want to not only work with it, but also learn to enjoy it. Because in that pendulation, there is the sense that I understand you, I respect you, and more importantly, I value you. And your partner desires to do the same. But it takes one person, just one person in that relationship having the desire to move, to make the first move, to say, I want to understand you better, rather than saying, I need you to understand me. And the moment that you take that different stance, the moment you get rid of that pride where I need to be understood, because you don't deserve to be understood by anyone, but you have an opportunity to share understanding or a desire to give understanding to others or be willing to open yourself up to another person so you can understand them. And that creates a reciprocal desire for them to want to understand you.
A huge component to the distillability. That's not even the word. Forgive me, folks. Forgive me. I knew where I was going with it, and then that just completely went left. But pride
Over that.
will have you all unwired, man. It will unravel every single thing that you could ever imagine possible. I've been in that place. I'll give you a quick example. I try to not apply everything to me, but you know, I like to be transparent with the people. We family here. Well, at least I treat the people here like family, man. No one is a stranger to me, right? So I was in a situation where I could have kept a place of employment. I worked there for 6 years, and because I was too prideful, I felt as if you know everything was stacked against me. Nobody was on my side. Fear took over. I thought my only option was to leave. So what I did was I wrote an email. I gave a full breakdown of why I left, and I hadn't been there since. It's been over 2 years since I've been in that place of employment. Do you understand that one decision that was based on how I felt changed the course of my entire life? This is 2 years ago, probably longer. And between then and now, I have lost so much along the way, literally, all from one decision. One decision changed everything. And by the grace of God, I'm here right now. But there were choices that set me back horribly. And I say that because you don't really know what your pride or what you're really doing until it affects you in a way that you didn't realize it was affecting you. Harsh reality is a very, very cruel reality at that. There is no give in it. There is no forgiveness in it. Once it takes root, it's not going anywhere. I don't care how many times you try to cut it. If you don't get into the root, you don't get into that ground and you don't pull that up and get it up out of you, it's just going to keep resurfacing. And so I find myself having to rebuild and regroup and reconstruct the way that I think and the way that I operate. Because them little things that you don't think matter, they matter. And they will hit back very hard. I wouldn't take it lightly. And what he said was right. You should definitely take a replay of this and go back and listen to different parts of the conversation because moving forward, you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. Not this year. I don't know what it is about 2024, but I don't think a lot of people want to make the same mistakes over again.
It's funny as you were talking, and you were mentioning how that one decision really changed things for you. The only thing um, is the one thing that kept on going through my mind as you were talking was, man, what a wonderful opportunity. And what I mean by that, the situation is unfortunate. However, it's it isn't so much about what you've experienced, but what you do with it. And when you decide that you're going to take a situation and learn from it, say, what is this teaching me? What can I learn from this and how can I get better? You win. You understand that what you've been through has the possibility of being something great, but only if you decide to see it that way. And this is one of the great things about pride is pride has the opportunity of creating humility because of the adversity that it takes us through. And that adversity reminds us that we are not all powerful. We are not the kind of person that can do whatever we want without consequences. That kind of person does not exist. Book of Proverbs says pride falls before the man and talks about how as a man or as people become enraptured in themselves and in love with the idea of themselves and believing that they are entitled to whatever it is they want, they are setting themselves up for great and spectacular disappointment. And in that disappointment is the opportunity for humility. And humility is the antidote for pride. Because when you are humble, you realize that there's a lot more to life than just you. And you are much smaller than you thought you were. You're not as big as you thought you were. You weren't as tough. You weren't as strong. You begin to see yourself for who you really are. And when you operate from a place of humility, this is where the healthy ego learns to surface. This is where the ego learns to understand where its limitations are. And this is where the ego begins to understand how it can be useful without being destructive.
You man, I'm telling you, I used to look at all of those bad scenarios as like punishments. Like God hate me, man. He must be pissed at me. Or like, damn, why I keep going through this? Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? Why am I having such a hard time with all of this? Why do I keep getting all of this coming to me and coming to me? And then it's just it got to the point where I had to sit myself down somewhere in a nice, quiet little place, and I had to play back my life and the doors that I walked through and what I said to that person and what I did and what I didn't do and what I could have did and how did I get to X and how did I get to Y, and then everything started to just come together. The pieces just started to fall in place. And when you start to open up the windows and you let that fresh air in, you see things differently. Now you're not burdening yourself so much, putting the responsibility of thinking that you have to be in control of every little thing. What I can't remember or quote the scripture word for word, but I know it said it's the Lord's prayer where it says, "Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me." Um, I'll stop there, but it's just along the lines of you're not going to understand every single thing that's happening, and that's okay. You have to have more trust and more faith that God is going to structure things the way they need to be. And whether or not this was the course of life that you chose, it was ordained. Everything that happened the way it had to happen for a reason. We're here right now because things had to happen the way they happened. And so I just look at pride as just one of those, and ego as one of those things where if you're going to walk in confidence, make sure that you understand what you're managing. It's your product. It's your last name. What represents you every day that you leave out your front door. It's your signature on paperwork, on friendships,
Mm.
on projects. It's going to determine the type of lifestyle you're going to have later on with people, self, and things. Be very mindful of how you treat yourself, how you treat others. Open yourself up. Don't remain in a box. There's always a box. Everybody has a box to some degree. Some people are so open minded that they can go places that me and you can't go. And there's other people who are just stuck in this one place of this is what I know, this is what I'm comfortable with, and I refuse to leave that bubble. This is me here, right there. You're right in the middle of this. You can't go nowhere else but in that space. So until you're able to come out of that space, we're not going to really get where we are trying to get. I think you're cheating yourself. I think we all cheat ourselves when we stay in that certain space. I'll say this though, Mr. Matthews, you are wise beyond your years, sir. Interesting enough, I play this back while I'm at work. I do get to have a earpiece in my head, and I can just let the lives play. And it's different when you hear it playing back versus actually being in the present. It does something to my attitude. It helps calm me down a lot. So I love these type of conversations because they break barriers. They break the atmosphere. It shifts people's mood, and it makes you look at things differently versus where you were prior to this. It's almost like melting ice, and you're really just trying to unravel and unpeel layers of things that you don't want anymore, and you're just trying to get it off you. And then once you get into these dialogues, you start to slowly but surely get these things off you that's hindering you. So salutes to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm really glad that along with everyone else that has enjoyed the content, that you have also gotten a lot out of it, even through playing it back. It Thank you, thank you for those kind of words.
Yeah, I know Saturday is right around the corner, folks.
Hmm.
Tomorrow I'm going to take my time. I'm going to rest tomorrow because Saturday is going to be something special. Not that these last few lives haven't been, because every single one that we've had has done something. I felt it the minute that I started doing these live streams and seeing the order slowly but surely meeting different people, engaging with different people. Things are slowly but surely changing for the better, and I'm embracing it, and I'm loving it. And Saturday won't be no different. I've never felt more humble and more honored and more privileged in my life to be sitting across from the people that I'm going to be sitting across from. I want to salute everybody that's pulling up. I want to thank Jason for reaching out, for pulling up. Um, we got some things to talk about. This is just the beginning. We're still early in the year. So many topics, so much that hasn't even been scratched. That it's going to take all of us as a collective to see these things come to life. So I don't want to do or force anything. That's why I'm going to take tomorrow off. I want to make sure that everything goes as smooth as possible for Saturday. Um, if you want to follow this brother, man, I'll let him give you the details. Uh, if you're not following me, we need to coordinate, link up. Let's talk, man. The panel is for everybody. I need to put that out there as well. This is assembly of excellence. This is not a me show. This is about the people. It's for the people. So if you ever feel like you want to come up and talk with us, you're more than welcome. I'm going to be incorporating different things along the way. I'm just trying out things to see what works and what fits. Check this live out on replay. Maybe at while you're at work, maybe while you're taking a bubble bath or in the shower or whatever, or jogging. Just plug it in, let it play on replay, and yeah, the rest is going to do itself.
It'll be the
But
best 90 minutes you
Saturday,
spend.
8 p.m. East. Oh yeah, definitely. Um, Final words before we close out, though. I'll give you the floor.
I'm I'm so grateful to be talking about these kinds of things. I've That's awesome, Greg. I'm so glad. It's so wonderful to be able to be on a platform with someone who is like-minded, who ponders about these things as well. And it is so great to be able to share this stage with you and to be a constant guest on your podcast, knowing that you make this space available, and because it's here, I'm able to come on, and the gratitude that I have for that, the gratitude to the people that listen in and that comment and that not only give their words of affirmation or their gratitude, but also the fact that they take something away from this. That it is a gift beyond measure, and I'm so glad to be a part of that. If you want to follow me, you can find me on
Yeah,
Facebook.
y'all know what's happening.
The easiest way is Rise to Lead on Facebook or Instagram. But yeah, Anna.
You know what? That's my that's my next stop, bro. I don't even go on my Instagram like that no more. I've been rocking with Threads. Shout out to my Threads peoples. But I gotta go on IG and look you up. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. I guess it's because I got you on Messenger. I really never just thought about that, but I'm gonna have to do that too. So that's gonna be my next mission as soon as we get up off of here.
I'm not very active on it, but I'm there.
That's fine. That's fine. I know. Just like Anna was just like, oh, he's on IG. There's people who want to follow you on there.
I'm gonna take that as a sign.
Blessings to everybody. And if you have any comments, leave them below, or you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to him. Maybe you might have some questions for him. Maybe you might want to have some conversations off camera with him. Um, his link is down there. So yeah, let's make it happen, man. This is Assembly of Excellence saying good night, God bless, and see you Saturday, Lord willing.